Jujutsu Kaisen Chapter 261 is here. Sukuna is seeing Gojo in reality. It's not a vision, but it's not Gojo. It's Yuta who copied Kenjaku's cursed technique and used it on Gojo's body. Sit back, relax as we go through the chapter and explain everything. The chapter picks up where we left things in the previous chapter. Yuji, while thinking about Chozo, decides to end things and tries to crush Sukuna's heart. However, Sukuna, after being so efficient with his cursed energy, holds his hand sign and chants domain expansion. But as soon as he says those words, he sees a shadow approaching. Sukuna sees the shadow of a person that he killed with his own hands. Sukuna stands in disbelief as he sees Gojo in front of him. He says, "No! That's impossible!" But Sukuna suddenly smiles as he understands exactly what's happening. He shouts, "So that's how you want to play? My apologies, it seems I underestimated you. I didn't think you were capable of going that far, Okotsu Yuta." And it looks like Sukuna is thrilled and excited to see Yuta going this far to try and defeat him. Another thing worth mentioning is that Sukuna didn't take long to figure things out. He is of course accustomed to Kenjaku's curse technique, but while Yuji is piercing his chest, Sukuna concludes that Yuta must have killed Kenjaku, copied his technique, and then used it to take over Gojo's body. Also, this confirms that Gojo is dead and not coming back. And we'll discuss the fact of Yuta taking over Gojo's body at the end of the video. On the next page, we get a flashback of the 1 month time swipe. Yuta proposes to have Rika devour Kenjaku and copy his body hopping ability, which would let Yuta take over Gojo's body and re-enter the fight. And that would raise the likelihood of their victory. Maki objects to this plan, but Hikari says they can only use this plan when all of them are wiped out and there is no other option. Kusakabe then says, can't he just use Gojo's corpse and copy Limitless? But Shoko says, Yuta wouldn't be able to use it without the 6 eyes. So, Kusakabe proposes that he copies the 6 eyes. However, Shoko explains that Yuta can't do that because the 6 eyes is a physical attribute, not a technique. Next, Maki asks a really important question. Yuta can only use his copy technique while Rika is fully manifested, which only lasts 5 minutes. So what happens when those 5 minutes are up? Yuta says that he doesn't know, but Mei explains that there are 3 likely possibilities. 1. Kenjaku's ability requires constant activation. In this case, the body and the soul won't be able to be maintained, and Yuta will die. 2. Kenjaku's ability is activated intermittently. He won't die immediately, but it will be a matter of time. 3. Kenjaku's ability needs to be active once, even after the 5 minutes he'll able to use the Limitless technique, and in this case, it's possible to dispose of Yuta's original body as he forever remains inside Gojo's body. The third scenario opens the door to endless possibilities. Remember, Yuta can still maintain his innate technique and probably Rika won't go away. She loves him so wouldn't just leave. This means he may use Kenjaku's ability again and return to his body in the future. Or, and here's a crazy possibility, Gojo and Yuta both coexist in Gojo's body. Keep in mind that Geto showed some resistance to Kenjaku during the Shibuya incident when Gojo was talking to Kenjaku. This proves that fractions of Geto's consciousness still exist, and this happened while Kenjaku was taking control and suppressing Geto. But Yuta won't suppress Gojo, so what if both coexist in the same body? This is just a crazy idea, we'll see what happens, and now let's go back to the chapter. Yuta says that he is fine with any one of the 3 outcomes as a final option. He will fight Sukuna first, and if he fails, then he will take Gojo's body as the last resort. But Maki tells him to quit talking as if it's settled because she doesn't like this plan. However, Yuta responds by saying, I'm getting pretty ticked off, no matter how you look at it, it's what we should do. But Kusakabe tells Yuta that they can't just think about the plan, they need to think about Yuta as a person. Yuta then gets irritated and says, do you realize who we're up against? The strongest sorcerer in history, Ryo Men Sukuna. If throwing away our humanity gives us a shot at winning, we should throw it away. Does becoming a monster scare you that be his lie? Maki says, but you're extremely important to everyone here. But Yuta responds by saying, what about Gojo? Is he not important? We've always pushed the burden of being a monster onto him alone. If he dies, one of us will have to take that spot. And if no one else wants to step up, then I will. And considering how risky what Yuta wants to do, I understand why the others are against this plan. This idea is just perverted and disrespects Gojo's corpse on so many levels. On top of that, there's a high chance that Yuta dies 5 minutes after he uses Kenjaku's ability, so there's a high chance that Yuta will fail and throws his life away. And on the other hand, Sukuna is the strongest sorcerer in history, plus he has the 10 Shadows technique, one of the rarest and most broken cursed techniques ever. I mean, the user of this technique alone can go toe to toe against Gojo, so if Gojo fails at defeating Sukuna, they should consider any available option they have to fight against Sukuna. Anyways, on the next page, Yuta asks permission from Gojo to take over his body, and Gojo says that he doesn't really mind because he is not planning on losing, and if he dies, Yuta can do whatever he wants. And even Yuta is surprised that Gojo doesn't mind. But Gojo responds that the only thing that bothered him was the fact that Shoko didn't even care about him at all. I mean, she even looks excited to see Gojo dead. Next, Yuta asks Gojo whether he is a Fujiwara descendant or a Sugawara, and Gojo answers that he and Yuta are descendants of the Sugawara, and the Fujiwaras and the Sugawaras are on bad terms. Yuta asked Gojo because Uro was calling him Fujiwara during their fight, but it's revealed in an interview with Gege that Uro calls all the guys that annoy her a Fujiwara. Anyway, I don't know if this discussion will have any important meaning in the future. I guess we should wait and see. Gojo then says that Yuta might have been born even more blessed than him, and if he can't use that advantage, he is totally lame. He also tells Yuta that he needs to take care of his sloppy, cursed energy control. Gojo then asks his students to leave because he doesn't want them to see his ugly and monstrous side, especially given the fact that he's not sure he is doing the right thing. And here Gojo is going to kill the higher-ups. He says, "Even if I lose to Sukuna, as long as everyone in this room is dealt with, Gakuganji will be in charge. If that happens, we won't have to worry about chaos like what happened after Shibuya." But they refuse, and Yuta tells him not to bear the burden of being a monster alone anymore, and Gojo responds by saying, "There's nothing that can be done about that. Back then I was left in the dust. I have to catch up." Honestly, Gojo should have killed the higher-ups a long time ago. These nasty people don't care about anyone, they only care about their status. Look at what they decided after Shibuya. Gojo was considered a criminal, and even trying to unseal him is classified as a crime. Next, we transition to Amai explaining his cursed technique. He can amplify the sugar within himself and output it in some kind of way. And one thing to note here is that Yuji is eating what Amai is producing. Shoko then asks him if he can transfer that sugar to others, and Amai says yes. So, Shoko puts Amai on the medical team with Nita as support by having him supply their brain with some sugar using his cursed technique. The scene switches again. Yuta is cut in half due to Sukuna's slash and has been rushed to the medical ward. Arata has used his cursed technique to prevent Yuta's wounds from getting worse, so it might be too late. Yuta says he's conscious thanks to Rika, but he's starting to reach his limit. Shoko tells Yuta that she has already stitched up Gojo's corpse, so once Yuta switches, he has to activate reverse curse technique at max capacity and complete the body. And the Mai here will back you up on that. Back to the present, Sukuna and Yuta in Gojo's body. Both open their domain. And it's mentioned that Gojo has shown the solution to Sukuna's open barrier domain. And I think this is referring to how Gojo was always changing the size and conditions of his domain expansion to prevent Sukuna from destroying it from the outside. Next, we get an epic double spread page of Sukuna versus Yuta. The chapter ends here and the manga will be on break next week, and I can't wait to see this fight. But now I would like to talk about the fact of Yuta taking over Gojo's body. I had some time to think about this, and one thing that came to mind is what Mahito said to Yuji. Mahito points out that he kills people without a second thought, and Yuji does the same with saving people. But Mahito makes Yuji understand by the end of their fight that this is war, and the only way to win is by killing your opponent without a second thought. Jujutsu Kaisen isn't your typical shonen where the main character saves everyone. Jujutsu Kaisen doesn't operate through the traditional rules of storytelling. Even Gege said that he doesn't care what character he kills as long as it fits the narrative. It's not about saving, it's about winning the war. Personally, I hate what happened in this chapter. This is extremely disrespectful to Gojo's character and kind of perverted, but it fits the narrative and it's something that Yuta needs to use in order to have a chance of defeating Sukuna, but I really don't like it.